right, everybody, welcome to WRUU 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. This is the Adam Messer Show, and I am your host, Adam Messer. And my special guests today are some really interesting folks. If you've heard me geeking out about different stuff that I love, one of my things that I really enjoy is sci-fi, and I've always been like a sci-fi fan. And so our special guests today on the show are Michelle Cornwell-Jordan and Bruce Latimer. And they are the folks behind the new production called When Androids Dream. So, welcome to the show, Michelle and Bruce. How are y'all doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you.
I am so excited. Okay, so would y'all mind giving like a real short micro bio of yourselves? And then my son Sebastian, he actually always plays live music. So after you do your micro bio, we'll have him play some live music, and then we'll come back into talking about When Androids Dream. So Michelle, would you go first?
Well, I'm Michelle Cornwell-Jordan, and I am the founder and owner of 4CW Media Productions, and we're just a boutique, very small, independent production company. We've been established since 2018, produced 2 short films and a recent web series. So that's pretty much, and also have written books for young adult and new adult. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. And Bruce?
Well, I'm Bruce, and some of my information is on my webpage, brucelatimerstudios.com, but I've done a few series. Also, I do weddings and surprisingly funerals. That took me by surprise, but that's a neat addition. Well, primarily I do training and promotional awareness films at it's a school district I work for. So I help the staff learn how to use the systems, through I train, in person, but also we probably got over 200 training videos we put together.
Oh, that is really awesome, and I'm excited because we're gonna be talking about the nuts and bolts today of we're gonna be talking about the nuts and bolts about film and production and all that too, but we're also gonna be talking about the series When Androids Dream, and then we're gonna be talking about the prequel, the Monstrum and the Monstrumverse and all that good stuff. And then, yeah, y'all got all the cool stuff. You're already starting to work ahead for the next one. I'm excited. So, Sebastian, would you mind playing a little bit of live music for us, sir? This is Sebastian Messer, everybody. Thank you very much. Yeah, you just got your new Ovation guitar, didn't you? Mm-hmm. And that was a graduation gift.
Yes.
From Grandma Connie.
Yes.
So, hey, so anyway, y'all, we Sebastian's always with me on the show, and he plays live music, and one of my favorite little segments to do recently is like a shout out to folks listening. So, would you like to do a shout out to anybody, Michelle? I'm sorry. I think we had technical difficulties there. Michelle, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Would you like to do a shout out, Michelle?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to do a shout out to somebody listening in?
That's listening in?
Yeah. Do you want to do a shout out like hey, so and so?
Yes, I do. I would like to shout out to all the magnificent cast and crew that has worked with us on Monstrum and When Androids Dream. Hi, guys!
Yeah. Awesome.
So is everyone that's been in When Androids Dream and in Monstrum. the cast, the production team, the crew, all of you. Hey, y'all.
Hey, how about you, Bruce? You got anybody you want to do a shout out for?
Well, I'll just add my wife, Jennifer. She's listening in. She's given me a lot of support, and
That's
that's great.
great. That is awesome. Hey, Jennifer. That's awesome. I want to do a shout out too. I want to give a shout out to Terry and Darlene Dremel. They're pretty frequent listeners. They're like big supporters. They're always like good friends. I love talking with them about everything. And I want to give a shout out to them and Miss Harriet. And I would also, I'd like to also give a shout out to the 4CW Media Productions group because, since we've been talking about getting this interview set up, Michelle, your group folks have been, just a wonderful group of people, and so want to do that. And so, okay, let's talk about When Androids Dream. Now, Rachel Brune introduced us, right? And she was one of the cast members for the production. And I, on the launch day, I think it was like a week ago Friday, I picked up the series on Vimeo, and I watched the When Androids Dream first, and then I went back and I watched picked up Monstrum and I watched it. And so I thought it was a really interesting. It's kind of like a futuristic dystopian future. And I love, especially with the indie production side of it, I love how it's set up with episodes, like little small episodes that you can follow along with the story. And I just felt like it was a really neat production. I know you can probably describe it better than I can, but I thought it was a really neat sci-fi production. And something different, that I hadn't seen before. And I like I like that there was a lot of action. There was also good drama and dialogue, but it kind of just flowed together with the storytelling side of it. That's what I really enjoyed, was the storytelling side of it. So could you kind of give us like a background of like the Monstrum verse and like how this all what it is and what people can expect from the story?
Yes. When Androids Dream, as you said, is the sequel. The next in line, the story next in line after Monstrum. Monstrum was completed in 2018 with the short film, and that basically came out of my love for fantasy, and also at that time I worked with young teenagers and things like that. So I was always privy to them talking about their games, video games, and things like that. So the World Health Organization had just established or confirmed or coined or whatever you want to call it, video gaming could be an actual disorder or whatnot. It's done too much. Not saying it's a disorder. I'm just saying, to extreme cases.
Oh yeah. See, the rewards-based system of video games, it triggers your dopamine release, so it can be addictive. So yeah, that's a proven thing. Yeah. So.
Right, and
so is that where it kind of spawned the idea of doing like a story based around?
Well,
virtual reality type stuff.
It came in part because also we like to bring in like social things that may be happening. I knew in the schools and the things that I worked at, saying no to drugs and all of that. As we've all know, that's like a campaign. So it kind of mixed it a little bit in my head. I was thinking, okay, well, what if you had a futuristic society where the virtual was the drug? All street drugs were eradicated. You only have virtual reality, and that became addictive. So that all of that kind of somewhat mixed together formed the world of Monstrum. It's based around the fact that it's New Dallas, New Deep Ellum in the 22nd century, and there are no street drugs, but there is something called somnium, and which is basically virtual reality, the virtual reality experience, and they can become addicted to it. So that's where that all happened. And then came the characters that are interacting in that world. Some of the characters, they've lost loved ones to it. And then we have on the other side characters, such as the Caesar group that is producing Somnium. But then, so that's where it started. When Android's Dream somewhat picks up with that, deepening or raising the stakes, maybe. We find out that the person that created Somnium even had a more diabolical plan, which is to, basically live forever. So what he does is take the human essence from, humans, put it in androids, and, we go from there, but it all is through the Somnium experience. So it's all kind of related.
I think it's a really neat background there. Hey, let me ask you, Bruce, what did you think about when you first read the script and you were like, because you were the chief photographer, right?
Yes.
Or the primary photographer or whatever. What did you think when you read the script?
When Android's Dream.
Yeah,
right.
When Android's Dream, yeah.
When Android's Dream, yes. Mm-hmm. It was really cool. I was seeing it too when I first read through it. Like Michelle said, I was seeing how we're growing more and more dependent, more and more on our technology, and then also the technology is growing to be a little bit more and more like us, so to speak. I mean, that was my first gathering from it, and it seems so real. I mean, today all of our technology, so we got them to tell us when to wake up, when our coffee's ready, when this is ready, when that's ready. You're speeding or something like that. So there's all around us, but this was another layer above that. In the future. Combine those two. So it was really exciting. I think I picked up on it really well when Michelle and I, were first speaking about it. She described it very well, and I was just excited.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I was really impressed with the storytelling with watching it because Michelle, you and I, we'd only been introduced a short period of time. I mean, maybe couple weeks before that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I like to do is I like to support other creative artists, and then when you had the video thing release, a video launch or whatever, I was like, oh, let me check it out. And I started watching it, and I watched When Androids Dream first. Like I said, anybody listening in, it's like it's just like anything else, like it's got the episodes, right, or an episodic season or whatever, but it's kind of like a movie, but it's broken down into episodes, and I enjoyed it, and I was like, okay, well, I'd like to see Monstrum, so I went back and I watched Monstrum, and then it's neat because When Androids Dream can stand alone by itself as a story, but it's neat to watch Monstrum because then it was kind of to see like some of the backstory. It's like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense why mm-hmm. these characters kind of clash or whatever, or some of the animosity that they have. Even though When Androids Dream, it's a complete encapsulated story, that can stand by itself. And that's one of the things I like about like a continuation, especially in a series where it's like a comic book, for example. Like, I like X-Men, or I like Wolverine, right? You want to be able to read an individual comic, unless that, like if it was When Androids Dream episode 1 and you skipped ahead to episode 6, you're going to be missing out on something, right? But to have When Androids Dream be able to stand alone by itself, to me, it reminds me of like, with a comic book, that you can read the book by itself and you can kind of pick up in midstream with the universe, and you're not missing out, but then you can go back and read the back issues or watch the back episodes, and you're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, especially with the lore of the whole universe, the whole Monstrumverse.
I think you're being I think that's very good observation. I had the same thing. It's probably different from Michelle because she did know Monstrum really well. So I came into it, like you said, doing this, When Androids Dream right off the bat. And so I think there is quite a challenge to try to not insult the person watching it from the days of Monstrum to repeat something, but at the same time comfortably introduce, like there's one time, and there were two of them, you can tell they had a past, and so it comes on really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it is quite a challenge to complement both.
Mm-hmm. Hey, everybody, you're tuning in
Thank
today,
you.
listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I am your host, Adam Messer, and this is the Adam Messer Show, and my special guests today are Michelle Cornwell-Jordan and Bruce Latimer. So, we're talking today about When Androids Dream and Monstrum and Monstrumverse and the 4CW Media Productions. We're right in the middle of talking about like how this is kind of just gels together. So I'm sorry, Michelle, you got cut off there before we did the station ID, but can you please continue?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is what you just asked, but going off what we were just saying.
Yeah.
Monstrum, in my head when I was writing it, that was just the first foray into that world. Because whenever I was writing, I saw it as a continuous thing. That was just it dealt more about the world building, where when we got to When Androids Dream, it was more about the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so it will be it's going to be a continuous thing. We're building upon, because I've had, some people that are like, I would love to know more about so-and-so or this person or their relationship. And which always makes me feel really good, because that means they're interested in the characters. And so the plan is to continue to expand the world. And we've also expanded it into the written chronicles, the books.
Yeah.
That is also,
yeah, you just had a book launch, right?
Right.
Yeah, congratulations.
Also telling, thank you, it's also telling the story of Monstrum. So, I of course, and we're, not yet, but I think of George Lucas, who I love, and I've seen some early interviews that he's given, and how he already had that world in his head, and it already made, and everything was going on, and so it was the films that we saw that he produced was just. It was him, getting out what was already made, just the same as the Harry Potter was already in her head, and she was just, letting it out little by little. So it's the same with Monstrum. I call it the Monstrumverse. We call it the Monstrumverse because it's already in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just coming out little by little, and I'm so grateful to work with Bruce, who get that it's great, crazy, because he's like, yeah, that show was great. We can do that. He's so excited. It's going to be fun. I mean, how can you not be excited about a project when you're working with someone that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was excited about it. Like Michelle, you and I have had a couple really nice conversations the last 2 weeks. Just kind of getting together with this. And Bruce, you and I, we had kind of a short, brief conversation that one day, and just kind of getting to know each other a little bit better. And I that's one of the things I love is when you find somebody you can gel with and you synergize with them on a project. For example, with my publishing Valhalla Books company, I have 12 authors that I've been working with to put out an anthology. And there's a lot of working parts, and this week I finally got all the, the last contracts in, I was able to put the last couple of stories into the compilation, because I've been doing it as I get them. And I was able to kind of put the first draft of the compilations together. Not the first draft of edits, because I've been going through edits or whatever, but the first kind of this is a book, you know what I mean? And it was so neat to see that, because, I'm working with these authors, and, we're all hitting on, it's a lot of work and moving parts, and we're all creatively, we're all kind of hitting on the same thing, because it's like a theme, just like with Monstrumverse. You've got a theme where it kind of persists throughout the storytelling. That's the same thing with the book that I'm doing. It's like I have a theme, and, be able to work with the authors and say, hey, this is what people should expect with this book. It's just like when they go to watch, When Androids Dream or Monstrumverse, they kind of expect okay, well, this is the universe that I'm buying into right now. You know what I mean? And that's such a neat feeling.
And it is awesome to work with a group that understands. I mean, what you're trying to say, because I mean, you can start it out like you can. Every writer could have an idea, but especially, and I wrote 14 books before this, so, but it was just me, the paper, and my world, so I can create any kind I want. But I had to learn once I started delving into producing short films and things. That takes a lot of people, and a lot of different to get a good product or a good film. It's a lot of different. Bruce, his vision, I could tell him, this is what I'm seeing. Then he can say, okay, I'm seeing this. Then the actors, we have an incredible bunch of actors. That they brought so much to the characters, and they took ownership, and they'll say,
I really love the Dominique character. I'll be honest with that. I thought. Yeah, I think her is Brianna. Is it or Brianna? Am I saying it wrong?
Brianna
Jordan.
Brianna Jordan.
Yeah, I think
daughter.
she did a great job with that role because that being the lead role, there's a lot to carry a series with. And if you don't like the lead character, or if the lead character's not likable, now she's kind of standoffish in the show. She's got kind of like that don't mess with me attitude, and she can kick butt too. Like she's got that like the action, but she's very likable. And she's also kind of like I don't know, not the brooding anti-hero, but more of like the kind of tough. I don't know, good guy, been crossed kind of hero. I don't see like any villain part of it, but I just kind of see like carrying that whole, you got all the other characters that come in, but I like how she's kind of evolved from like Monstrum to the end of, When Androids Dream. I like how that character's evolved.
And that was through the relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce, go ahead. Bruce.
No, I was going to say, I agree with you. The leadership, I think a lot of times that's how you follow the leadership, or when a viewer is liking somebody. In this particular case, I think she cares for people, but at the same time, I've got this vision or movement. I'm going to do this. Come with me or get out of the way.
Yeah. Well, when Michelle and I were talking, I was kind of thinking of like Wolverine with the X-Men. Like Wolverine sometimes is a leader, and Wolverine sometimes is a follower. At least in the like the old school X-Men or whatever. And like he could be a standalone character, or he could be part of the group. And that's what I see with the Dominique character is like she could be a standalone character, or she can also be like the group, but she's like a reluctant leader. Like she's not trying to tell everybody what to do. She's just like, this is what I'm doing, and then everybody kind of just falls in line. They're like, yeah, we're going with you, Dominique. We're gonna go kick butt,
Well, I think that's where the growth of the two characters, her and then the Ajay character, at the very something that happened to them previously, they broke up because I think they both wanted to go their different ways.
Yeah.
There was no, but at the end, they still cared for each other a lot. But now they're both allowing the other person to be them, and I think that's key in a relationship. You can't smother somebody and make them not be them, and I think that's where it ended up so far.
He's like really heartbroken about her.
Yes.
Yeah, she's kind of like I mean, like it was watching it. It was at first I was like, what is this guy's deal? But I mean, like she put it on him is what she did. Like the guy's like his mind's twisted because he's just head over heels in love with her, and he can't get her out. He can't shake her, and I mean, like I get it. I understand.
All the actors have a different style, and it was a good style. And what was neat with him, he stayed in character even when in between shots. He was always.
Oh, he's a method actor.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
I don't know if we.
His name is J.J. Balderas. He's Jai.
Yeah, he did great. So this is a compliment. I mean, I've heard
he did awesome.
Did that spot. So.
Forgive me, I don't know. Like, okay, so I don't know all the characters' names, but forgive me. But Dominique's sister.
Dominique's sister. Okay, Dominique's sister actually was the one that was killed by something. But you're thinking, I believe, Baby J.
Well, in the second series, she plays kind of like the techie for the android. It's the same
That's
girl.
Baby J. Yes, that was Dominique Green, and the actress is Dominique Green.
Yeah.
And that was the character's called Baby J.
Baby J.
And
Okay.
she was part of the Nuke Day, and I think she did awesome. We got actually some feedback from viewers who liked her character a lot, just the way that she, you know, how she was, and she's the youngest of the group, and how she vibed with Jai. You know, she wasn't afraid to call him out for how he was. And I will say, though, guys, a fun fact, J.J. Balderas had to really help me with Jai because I had the character leaving a little bit harder, and he was like, nobody's going to like this character. You know, we got to soften him up a little bit. And so I really am grateful.
Well, you know, that's so crazy that you say that, because one of the things, like, on this show that I talk with people about is the process. We talk about the projects, you know, we talk about the process, right? So with storytelling, that is, I feel like that is such an important part of, you know, the character development, because if you've got a character who, and I'll just bring this movie up, the Joker, for example, right? $1 billion film this last year. Because people could relate to his downfalls. You know, people could relate to, like, you know, his psychosis breaks and stuff like that. They're like, oh, okay. Like, the things he did was horrible, right? But he was a relatable character. He was a likable character because of that. And even though the character itself, you know, I'm not talking about, you know, the actor. I'm just talking about the character itself. The character itself, you know, is a bad guy and does a lot of bad, you know, evil things.
Right.
You know, but believability or identifying or being able to connect with a character, even the bad guys, you know, I feel like is an important part of storytelling, because if somebody's just a jerk the whole time and they do bad things and there's nothing likable about them, like, it might be like, you know, with the Joker, for example, in that movie, it was the guy, you could just see the guy was, you know, he's failing in life. And then he just snaps because of a series of failures, you know. And it's like, well, I mean, you know, that's relatable. People go through that in everyday life, you know.
Well, it's quite magical. I agree with you. It's like the old Bonnie and Clyde movie. You know how they, even though they're killers, the bank robbers are nasty people, but at the end of the movie where they're dead, and everyone was like, you didn't have to kill them.
Yeah.
Because somehow the movie made us like Bonnie and Clyde. You know?
Yeah, and I think likability is a huge factor in life in general, but especially in storytelling. I mean, because, you know, if you're, I tell this to my kids, and I share this with my friends. If you are a jerk, people will not forgive you. But if you are, you know, a nice person, unlikable, and you make a mistake and you're honest about it, people will forgive you. Yeah. And I feel like that's the same thing with storytelling. It's like, you know, we can kind of forgive that person because we like them, you know, and we know it's fiction. We know it's not, you know, like, there's really not a Freddy or, you know, Jason running around killing somebody like that. You know, we know that there's a safety in that. But I agree. I mean, like, with his character, I'm sorry, was it Johnny or
Johnny.
what? How do you say it?
J.J. Balderas is the actor. Jai was the character.
Jai. So with Jai's character, like, he's like this tough, you know, like kind of a, you know, physically real fit kind of guy, and you know, so he's kind of like, you know, you would think like, oh, I don't know about this guy, you know, I'm not really sure about this guy, because the way he comes off is kind of like, you know, he starts barking orders right off the, you know, beginning and whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't know, they don't like it or whatever, and then you realize, like, wait a minute, this guy is just a big softy, you know. Yeah. He's just a big softy.
One character that I'm going to say it was hard to me. I think it would be a little harder. I'm not an actress though, but with a hominid, because they played the androids. Tay was played by Alicia Underwood, and
And she's the main
and
android
then
in When Androids Dream, right?
She was the primary android in Monstrum. She was in Monstrum, and then she was in Android's Dream. And then the other hominids was Talia Houston is the actress, and Anura Matthews was the actress, but they played Phaedra and Tyranny, and they were all the hominids, the androids. And to me, they had to get across a lot of emotion without
portraying emotion.
Human emotion?
Yeah.
Right.
Hold that thought, Michelle. We've got to do the station
Okay.
break real quick here. Everybody, you're listening to WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
The William Scarborough House is one of the earliest examples of Greek Revival architecture in a domestic setting in the South. Designated a National Historic Landmark in 1974, the Ships of the Sea Museum is a member of the National Trust for Historic Preservation Distinctive Destinations Program. More information can be found at shipsofthesea.org. This is a message from the Georgia State Department of Public Health. When the Georgia Department of Public Health gets a lab-confirmed case of COVID-19, they will let the public know. The Georgia Department of Public Health updates its website, dph.ga.gov, every day at noon with a map of confirmed cases around the state of Georgia. More information can be found at dph.ga.gov.
You are attuned to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
WRUU 107.5 FM is a new and different listener-supported and all-volunteer community radio station for Savannah. Our diverse broadcast and web programming is supported by generous listeners who value our passion and spunk. We are independent of other media and receive no government or large corporate support. People like you are our largest and most important source of our funding. Go to WRUU.org to find out how you can make a one-time or a monthly contribution. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we are back, and I am really excited to have you here listening to us today here on WRUU. And I just want to kind of piggyback off of the station announcements. I'm going in. We just celebrated the second year of the show in June, and we're an all volunteer station. It's with listener support like yours that allows me to do something I love doing. I'm a volunteer here. I love doing this show. I love having special guests on my show, like Michelle and Bruce. And so, I really appreciate all of y'all out there listening in and helping out. And if you've been on the fence about it, like, whatever, let me tell you, even $1 can go a long way, because we have our station budget, which pays for our overhead, like our lease and our rent, our utilities. Also, like, last year when we had the equipment upgrade, stuff's always needing to be maintenance and stuff like that. So, we're all volunteers here, but that's where the money goes. So, like, when you make a donation, the funds go directly back into and we're a nonprofit, so your donation can be a tax write-off as well, but it goes right back into the station. And so thanks a lot. So alrighty, so Michelle, right before the break, we were talking about the hominids with having the actress having the job of portraying emotion while being an android that has no emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah, so tell me about that.
And I think they nailed it. I think they nailed it. I think they did a really, really good job. I was just saying, with all the different characters, because I believe all of the characters had the actors had their own challenges, and they really owned their characters. And I think Alicia Underwood and Nora Mathis and Tanya Houston did a great job. And Minerva, oh my goodness! Now Minerva is one of the main hominids. She's a leader. And
yeah, she is. Yeah, that scene is so great.
Emotions.
That scene is so great because she's like,
Yes.
I even like where she pops her collar. I like the part where she pops her collar. She's like, yeah, well. And everybody listen, that's Rachel Brune. You hear me talking about her
Rachel
quite
Brune.
a bit. So Rachel did a I think she did a fantastic job with her scene there. And I was like, it's like, you know, like the screen pops up and Tay is like, what is this? And Minerva's like, hey there, welcome to the club.
Well,
So she's seasoned. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going with it. That I think that was, the first big step of the character development. Once again, just the growth between, Alicia and Brianna's characters, their growth towards the end. How and I'm going to the force, but it's and at the ending, those two. I think the ending scene that those two went together was incredible. I felt even though I knew the story.
Yeah, we can't give any spoilers away, but I was really shocked. I was like, "What?" I mean, like it sets the hook for the next one for sure. I mean, like I'm right there with you, Bruce. I was like, "What?"
Because if you look at their relationship in Monstrum, or all of their relationship, and then towards the end of Winter and George Stream, the hope is that you'll see that character development with them and the relationship development and all of them. I think the actors they pulled it off. They did a great job and I'm going to name also like Marcus Caesar. We have been building him up for, and he's and that character is played by Lance, and he really did a great job because again we have been building it up since a Monstrum.
Yeah.
And so, there was the expectation, and Lance Parker, again, is the actor. And I think he brought a great Marcus, as well as all of them. It would be hard to name every single person. But I think the cast did a great job with the characters. And,
I want to ask you, talking about the characters, I think probably getting it wrong here, I'm sorry, but in Monstrum, there was Soldier and... what was his? He was like I feel bad now because he was like one of the main characters in the first one, and he's running around with Dominique's first boyfriend or whatever that you see, Irwin something.
Now, Soldier, who's played by DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
That's in Winter and George Stream, and he has a mysterious past, and so he was introduced in Winter and George Stream. There is another character that was in Monstrum. Hey guys, if you're listening, there is a kind of a back and forth, but he's Bomb Maker. I think you're thinking of Bomb Maker, or Sebastian, but we can't really say a lot about him because that goes into spoil.
Yeah. No, what I was saying was like with the dynamics of the groups, because you had it's not like you did have a couple of different factions, but you had within the factions you had like subgroups, and like you had like the soldiers, you had the hominids, you had like the techies. Yeah, you had all these little subgroups, and they all played like a role, when it came to trying to achieve their goal, basically. I don't want to give spoilers, but they all had like a role to play in it. And I thought it was neat how the different actors meshed well with that. Like they all seemed like they kind of gelled. And I believe you told me that most of the actors have been on the project, from the beginning.
Monstrum.
Yeah.
Right, from the beginning. And I wanted to also say it was a different the cinematographer for Monstrum was Alex Espinosa, and Ryan Collin directed Monstrum. I wrote the script.
Well, when I'm like kind of dipping back and forth, I'm just talking about the Monstrum universe and the storytelling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
kind of going back and forth because it lays the foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The cast pretty much was the same. they carried over.
Well, the question I had for you with Irwin Chung, I think that's the character's name, because I got the little
Emil. He plays Emil Caesar. Erwin Chung is Emil Caesar.
Yeah,
he's the son of Marcus. Yes.
Okay, so I've got the IMDb page pulled up here, and he was the boyfriend in the first series until something happens with Dominique and her sister.
Yes.
And then in the second series, he's kind of like the one of the bad guys. You know, and so
he was always the bad guy, but yeah,
we didn't know he was the bad guy though in the first one, right?
Yeah.
Like that was a surprise for me because I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, like I because I watched them in reverse. You know, I watched I went into the stream first, and I was like, wait a minute, how is Dominique tied in with this guy? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. He because at the time Marcus wasn't seen, so he was running the Caesar group, and
okay.
he was the reason that her sister died, and that was the reason for the whole breakup, and then just try not to give spoilers. She dealt some bad damage to the group, and so that was why it went into a stream. He was seeking revenge.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense. I probably should really go back and watch them, in order like that. Because I like I said, I watched that, and I'm not like I've been kind of dipping in and out with the story here, mostly Bruce, but the cinematography I feel like was great.
Yeah.
I really do because
did a great
seeing the story. And then watching the cinematography and how you develop that. Can you talk to us more about, because I know I asked you earlier, like, what you thought about the script because as a cinematographer, when you're seeing this and you're working with Michelle on the directing and, how did you approach the shots and the angles and, the chief photography?
Well, the main, some of them were very complex scenes, we had to break down. And what was fortunate, I got to edit, so at least I got to tell myself what I was going to do in the future. So, having that view in my head was great. But pretty much, when we filmed like the complex scenes, we went on one side and had 2, sometimes 3 cameras set up running it. I had a really, really, really good assistant. And I think that's so important. It was so important that. One time,
who was your assistant?
I looked
Seth Moore.
What?
I was asking who your assistant was.
Yes, Seth Moore.
Okay,
and
good.
So he was already over there fixing it before I even knew. But then we would know who the main character was, and we would go for close-up shots or different angles after that.
And I think they all did a really good job with with the scenes going from one side to the other. They didn't break character.
The fight scene was fun to do too. I mean, they were, like Michelle's already said, everyone was so great. But they got up there doing the fight scene, and part of me was in the fight scene. But we did quite a few takes of it. And every time I'd ask them, are you okay? I mean, it wasn't necessarily comfortable. Are you okay? Can we do it again? Yeah, we'll do as many times as you want to. I'm like, okay.
And now y'all filmed this in Texas, right?
Yes.
It was a very difficult location.
Okay, so what time of the year did y'all film it? Because I'm sure it was hot.
Well, no, November. We actually did it.
Okay.
It was November 5th, and we were at, we call it Graffiti Alley.
Okay.
It's basically a warehouse district. There was no running water, no restroom facilities. It was just open. It was just a warehouse, like an alley. But this is the city has allowed people to come in and do graffiti. So it's a
kind of like an art
area
rejuvenation
where
type
people
thing.
To do all look at the graffiti.
Yeah.
So, but it was open. It was there was groups coming in and out. We arrived at 5 a.m. and we didn't leave until I think it was like Bruce about 7 or 8 that evening.
Well,
and
you were like 10.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, it was a long day. It was actually cold because it was in November, and so it was extremely cold. Again, as I said, the cast had to deal with the fact there was no resting area, but they brought it every time. I mean, that's what I said. This group in Monstrum, where we had 3 different locations, and long hours, as well as in Winter Stream. And again, it was pretty much the exact same cast we added on. They've always just they were always on point every time.
Yeah.
Whatever you ask them to do, they will do it. And like Bruce said, they were multiple times, because some of those shots took multiple times, and it was they really were awesome. I can never.
That's
I
good.
can never sing their praises enough.
Everybody, you are
And
listening
Bruce
to
did. Oh my
WR.
goodness.
Hold on
That
for a
was
second, guys.
long
Hold
shoot.
on for a second, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I got to do
sorry.
the station ID. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. You're listening to WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. So go ahead, Michelle, what were you saying?
I was singing Bruce's praise.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was, because, again, that was a hard shoot. And where some of us were able to take breaks, Bruce did not. I mean, Bruce and his team, the entire time. I mean, we're talking about arriving at 5 a.m. to 10 that evening, and he was, always shooting something. And so I really am very, very happy.
Let me ask you, moving on
grateful.
to a different subject with like within the same realm. With that, the script, you have the actors on set, and did you have like any while you were doing the production? Did you have any like script changes that you're like, oh, like in my head I thought it would be like this, but actually I think it would sound better this way? Did you have any of that?
Oh, that was the whole entire time.
Okay.
Yes, that was one of the things that, we had said, established that in writing the script, if the dialogue or whatever, it didn't fit the actor felt that maybe it could be said, they felt that their character was a little different. As long as the message still came across, they can just say it the way they think they needed to, as long as they say it the same way each time. So they did a great job with that. There were some script changes. I mean, film day. Or at least the day before, we had to add a scene, or because we lost one of the out-of-town actors that was supposed to be there, so we had to change something that day.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge.
Well,
it really was.
That's cool. I mean, like, it all came together. Yeah, it all came together. That's great.
The actors were perfect. I mean, and the nice thing is, when either Michelle or I were watching it, and we made a comment about it'd be better if you did blank, whatever. I mean, they just responded. I mean, everyone knows that we all have to look good for us all to look good later. So it's impressive. For me, quite a challenge was when we're up there. And you said changes would be keeping an eye on the sun or keeping an eye on the shade, because the sun for some reason won't stay in one place and cooperate. So we have
lighting.
We have to keep working with that and keep it in mind. So that was difficult. And then, like Michelle said, I mean, one time, we'd be on one side taking a shot, and then we go to the other side, and a train decides to go by. I'm like,
yeah, I can imagine.
It feels like it's the longest train in the world because you're waiting for it to get out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Working on any kind of production, you want to. The goal is, to have that finished product, and then for the audiences to enjoy it. And I think you did. I think y'all did a really nice job with the When Androids Dream. And I've enjoyed, I enjoyed it. I had a great time watching it. I just thought it was really fun. I mean, I liked it so much that I decided to go back and watch Monstrum as well. And I think that's when you're talking about small production companies or indie productions, because this show I talked to a lot of. I've talked to people who are like internationally best-selling authors, and I've talked to people who are like me, who are indie authors and small print publishers. So I've a gamut of creators. Have musicians and stuff like that on. That's, I think, one of the things with the indie creators, the people that are they're the ones that are putting the blood, sweat, and tears into it. I feel like you can feel that passion more sometimes, because it's not as formulaic. I mean, like, yes, we have to follow a story. We want a first, second, and third act. We want to see the hero progression. We want all those things. We want to see some conflict or some drama, some romance. Those things. But I really feel like when it comes to indie productions, that you can see something different. You can see something that's not necessarily just a reprint of something that's been out for the last 30 or 40 years or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How did that...
One thing,
Go ahead, Bruce.
that goes along with what you're saying, with the ending and all, but, I feel like when I do this, everyone, and I don't know what they think about me, but, you get, because you're working hard together for a goal, and you always do no matter what. But like you say, for us, we're working for a goal. We're working together. We knew it real well. And there's an intensity. And for me, when all's said and done, I feel like I just got a whole bunch of new friends.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
With that, like Michelle and I, if I work together, maybe some of us, but maybe I won't see any of them again. Luckily, we got, social media where we get to see each other. But, we kind of get to root for each other. I see another film I worked on. I see him doing commercials and other things. I take a little pride because I was like, I worked with that guy, So a nice friendship develops. I think even like I said, you don't even see each other, but still, we hold each other warmly, and that's something special. I don't think you get that necessarily, when you're just doing that regular 9-to-5 job. You get friends, but this, I don't know. It just was really, it's always special.
Definitely. This was a great experience.
Yeah, I agree.
I really enjoyed working with everyone.
I agree. What I was wanting to ask you with that is with the productions like that, do you feel the same way with being a small production company that you're trying to put something out there that's different and new that other people are not saying? I'm not knocking any big time production. I'm not trying to knock anything like that. But I just feel like with smaller production companies and indie authors or indie producers or whatever, like the solo folks out there, I just feel like they because there's not the same gatekeeping, at that level, that they can kind of put out whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good thought. I was not thinking about that till you mentioned it. But one thing, there's always a thing, even in corporate world, where the small guy can make turns quicker than the big battleship, because we are trying to express. But just from my standpoint, one thing you have to, like I was speaking about the lights, like on the Solo, they got all this gear, equipment, money. If the sun's in their way, they just go ahead and put up some screens, and it's gone. But in our case, we have to truly understand lighting. They do too, but I think in this particular case, we have to understand lighting and take advantage of other situations, and know what's going on. So we can't mask, nature.
Yeah, and every penny really counts. It's not, there's not a bloat in the budget. It's like, hey.
Well, we had to tell. Well, I had to notice that too. The fight scene inside with the sun changing, I just had to remind the actors. They know it, but you have to remind, like when you fall or when you do this, don't go into the sunlight. It's dangerous. But, if they go in there, you're going to be washed out.
Oh yeah,
so you cannot go over there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's cool. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up this first hour, everybody. I'm pretty excited. We have another hour of the show coming up at 4:00. So, today you're listening to WRU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. This is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. And my special guests today are from When Androids Dream, Michelle Cornwell-Jordan, and Bruce Latimer. And, we're going to be back at the second hour and talk a lot more about the whole Monstrum verse. I'm pretty excited. Thanks, y'all, for being here with the first hour, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right.
All right, everybody. Here is Sebastian Messer playing some live music.